This morning, the United States Supreme Court turned down the Trump administration's request to skip over the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals and consider the DACA injunction directly. Now that's good, but it's not 100% good. It's not too surprising that the Supreme Court said no to skipping the Ninth Circuit. It's pretty rare that the Supreme Court agrees to take a case before an appellate court has heard it. They haven't done it since 2004. They usually like to see what the lower courts have to say and see if problems will go away before they get to the Supreme Court level. After all, the Supreme Court only has 9 justices, so they have to pick and choose very carefully which cases they get involved with. The effect of their choosing not to take the case at this time is that the lower court injunction keeping DACA alive is going to continue, potentially for a year or more, while the case is argued out in the lower courts. Now, obviously, that's a good thing for people who have DACA now and can continue to renew it. But it's not all good, because you have to remember that this injunction only applied to people who already had DACA. So people who, for whatever reason, were eligible for DACA but hadn't applied, or who have now become eligible for DACA since September, they're left out. And what this really does is it sets up a division between two groups of people who you would probably say are situated pretty much the same. Those who were eligible for DACA and got it, and those who were eligible for DACA but didn't. Now, when I talk about two groups that are similarly situated and treated differently, that's kind of equal protection language. So maybe there's a 14th Amendment claim in this, but that would be left to the constitutional scholars. With respect to immigration law, however, what this decision means is that there's really now no more pressure on Congress to get anything done before the Trump administration's self-imposed March 5th deadline. We already saw recently how difficult it was for the Senate and the House to even take up a proposal when they thought they had a deadline. Now that they know there isn't a deadline, I think we should expect that any congressional focus on DACA is going to fade away for the time being. It's also very likely that because of this setting up of these differences between groups, that Dreamers are now really going to be seen as split into two groups. Those who had DACA and want to preserve it, and those who could have had DACA but don't. And that's going to make it easier for people who oppose liberalizing immigration for Dreamers to play these groups off against each other and to use the people who already have DACA as a bargaining chip for any kind of future concessions through congressional negotiations. So, although this Supreme Court decision is good and it preserves DACA the way it is now, it shouldn't really be seen as a meaningful victory. However, it does mean that as far as today is concerned, things aren't getting worse. And these days, that's probably a victory in itself. Now, if you find these videos helpful, if you think this information gives you things you need to know, then please like us on Facebook or follow us on YouTube, subscribe to our channel so you can receive these updates when we put them out pretty much every week. And of course, you can always go to our website at www.lesterlaw.org, or if you have a case and you want to find out if we can help you, call us directly at area code 423-402-0608. So until next time, stay strong, stay safe. We'll see you soon.